Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local boys and girls clubs. Great futures start here.
When I was growing up, being a single child with having a single mom and having an abusive father, it was challenging because seeing my mom cry and beaten up was scary for me, and I was scared for myself as well. And the theory is that when I was a baby, my father was angry and threw me across the room, and that caused some hearing nerve damage. So we moved out here to get away from my father in that abusive environment. It was in 5th grade. My mother and I were watching America's Most Wanted. And she turned to me and she said, "Son, you know how we've been going to court lately?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, what do you think about just running away?" I'm like, "No way, Mom, we're not gonna do that. You know, do what you need to do." And she ended up telling me, "Well, if I go to prison, I may lose you, son, and you're gonna be in a foster care system, and I may never get you again." So obviously that was very frightening. So the next day, over the next couple of weeks, I would ask my friends in class, "Hey, mind if I can stay with you for 6 months to a year? I don't know how long, but I just need someplace to stay." And I was very fortunate that I did have 2 friends, brothers, that their mother actually took me in, and I got to stay in the same school, stay in the same neighborhood, and I got to reunite with my mom after she got out of prison. That's when I got this really big looking auditory, it's called an auditory trainer. And I kind of looked like a robot because there was just a big piece of equipment. I wore a strap over my shoulder and behind my back. So I was very obvious that there was something wrong with me. And I would sit in class and I was constantly being teased that there was something wrong with me. I'm wearing this big old piece of equipment just so that way I can hear the teacher and what she's saying. In the neighborhood that I was living in, constantly seeing people doing drugs, gang members. In fact, one day walking from home, I was actually jumped by a group of gang members. And I was just kind of getting lost and kind of depressed and not knowing what I really wanted to do if I was ever going to be successful. And it wasn't until one day when I met somebody, he shared with me that there's this really cool place called the Boys and Girls Club on 36th. So I was like, okay, why not? What I have to lose?
When I was a club director back in, I guess it was 96 or 97, one of my club members spoke to me about a young man that was in need of some help. He had some issues going on in his life, and he told me that he thought the club would be an ideal place for this young man. Well, a couple days later, in walked Nique Guerrero.
And so when I came to the Boys and Girls Club, it was like coming home to a family. John McDowell, who's the site director or the club director at the time, I kind of looked at him like a second dad because obviously I didn't have a father growing up, so I was looking for strong role models.
Hundreds of Nique Guerreros walk through the Homestead Clubhouse doors every day. I guess my challenge was to convince Nick that he wasn't the only person going through challenges. And I knew once he got into the clubhouse, I would be able to help Nick in the way I think Nick needed to help, and that was to instill some self-confidence in him.
And so when I came to the club, John McDowell got me involved with all these different activities that eventually increased my self-esteem, that had me believe in myself as a leader.
I thought the best way for Nick to build that self-confidence was to take the focus off himself and put it on others. So what I tried to do is give him responsibility. I had him working with kids. I put him in the computer room. I think Nick coached one of my basketball teams. And I think just working with the kids in the clubhouse, Nick saw that there were kids in that clubhouse that made his situation seem so trivial.
So my senior year in high school was probably the most challenging year. There were some problems at home that couldn't be reconciled. And so I ended up spending my senior year living at friends' houses, sleeping in their cars, but all at the same time I was dedicated to coming to the Boys and Girls Club every single day after school.
I was able to offer Nick a part-time position. He was able to find some type of living arrangements based on that income.
If it hadn't been for the Boys and Girls Club and giving me that opportunity to work and support myself and at the same time interact with the wonderful membership here, I wouldn't have ever had that time to study and to use the computer lab to help me be successful. So that enabled me to graduate as an honors student, one of the top 20, with a GPA of 3.8. I had numerous scholarships, and at the same time, I was selected and ended up winning being the Youth of the Year for Arizona. I didn't know that the position that I'm in today would have resulted from my experience at the Boys and Girls Club. I work for Anthony Incorporation, and I am a corporate instructor. Just this past year in April, I bought my house, which is more than a dream come true. And I'm very fortunate that I have my wife. She's been my biggest fan, my biggest support system. And she kind of reminds me of the love and the commitment that I used to have at the Boys and Girls Club. She's there for me every day, giving me that support and encouragement.
I always tell people that, no, we don't have problem kids. We have kids with problems. And if we don't do it, who will?
This is a place where people feel safe and that they can be themselves and be able to share their dreams without being ridiculed or made fun of or being told that that's never gonna happen, that's not gonna ever come true. The Boys and Girls Club give many youth just as myself and many of my peers that I've grown up with an opportunity to see that there is a life outside of our neighborhood, that we can become productive members of society, we can buy a house, we can become professionals that help other people do well in life.
That's why it's so important that the clubs remain open, because the Boys and Girls Clubs, we target those kids. We specifically want to work with those kids. And why so many people are turning their backs on these young kids, that's our mission. That is our mission, to reach those kids that need us most.